What's up, guys? Welcome to the channel. My name's Micah, and today it's all about the 2024 Kawasaki ZX-6R. So in this video, we are gonna cover absolutely everything about this bike. We're gonna go over what's new, what's different and changed for the 2024 model, the specs and some of the numbers on this bike. We're gonna go over all the features that this motorcycle has, so all the different ride modes, the power modes, the traction control, the Kawasaki quick shifter, and I'm gonna show you how to use all those features, toggle them on and off, go through all the menus, go into the settings, sync your phone up to the bike. We'll go over some of the upgrades that are out there for this motorcycle, so tunes, exhaust, different upgrades you can do and how much power each of those will add to your motorcycle. And of course, we're gonna take this Black Beauty out for a ride and see how it does. See what our overall thoughts on the 24 ZX-6R. Stick around, guys. This is gonna be one for the books. So without further ado, let's rip into it. So the 24 ZX-6R got a ton of changes. Most notably is gonna be the styling on this bike. And it's gonna be the front end in particular. So as we come to the front end of the bike, so the headlights now are gonna be kind of recessed into the fairings. You know, they changed everything about the front here. So you kind of have these two split chin spoilers underneath the headlamps. You know, it resembles the ZX-10R very closely. We do kind of get some winglets on the side. So I'll bring you over here and you can see how these kind of extend past the headlight. So they do let air pass through them there. We have this Moto GP style little windscreen with the cutouts on the side. It looks super tasteful. The ram air intake in the front perfectly follows those lines going up to the windscreen, and the headlights look so good on this. I will say that every light on this motorcycle is going to be LED. So the headlights, the turn signals, the tail light, the license plate light, it is all LEDs. So here is the low beams for the headlights. So you can see they're extremely tasteful. You have both headlamps on when the low beam is on, and then for the high beam, you'll see these little corners illuminate on either side. That is gonna be the high beams for this motorcycle, so it really fills out the whole headlight when the high beams are on, but low beams, still tasteful. So for the 24 model, we did see Kawasaki go back to a regular round style front disc brake on both sides. So we did have the pedal rotors, the wave rotors, I guess, but we've seen Kawasaki move back to this regular style rotor. They have found that that is more efficient and effective than the pedal wave rotors. Now, another huge difference on the 24 model is that we have a full digital display. So there is no analog tachometer anymore, you know, with your little square that has your speedometer, your trip, gas gauge, all that. Everything is on one digital gauge. So it's a 4-inch TFT display. It is awesome. You can change the background colors on it from white to black, adjust brightness. So Kawasaki has made a handful of performance and internal changes on the 24 as well. So in light of Euro 5 emission standards, Kawasaki chose to revamp a lot. So this bike is cammed totally differently than it was before. In light of that, they've gotten in there and changed the airbox and intake, the injection as well. But what all those changes collectively do is give you a ton of more low RPM and mid-range grunt. So now you have a 600cc inline 4-cylinder super sport that isn't completely gutless in the low RPM. And it makes this bike super enjoyable and practical for the rider who's not just on the racetrack every day, who's commuting around town. You know, that low RPM power is going to be so useful for you riding around town. So now we'll talk about some specifications, some horsepower and torque numbers for the 24 ZX6, and then we'll go over all the features. So from the factory in stock form, this bike makes 122 horsepower and 127 horsepower with your ram air intake. So at top speed, you got 5 more horsepower. As far as torque numbers for this bike, it's sitting right at 51 foot-pounds from the factory. The bike all fueled up, ready to rip, is sitting at 400 430 pounds for the non-ABS and 434 pounds for the ABS model. Well, and I'll just go over some quick modifications, you know, that you could do to your bike and kind of what power those would each add. So pretty much any modification you make to this bike, you're not gonna gain any power unless you get an ECU flash or a tune afterwards. Now, through my research of this motorcycle and from the dyno charts I have seen from the aftermarket parts put on, if you just do a slip-on exhaust system and get a tune afterwards, just those two things, you're probably gonna gain 3 horsepower, maybe 4. Now, if you do a full exhaust system on this bike with an ECU flash or tune afterwards, you're probably gonna be at around 7 to 10 horsepower more. I've seen as much as 12 from a full exhaust and then just a ECU flash afterwards. Now, kind of the crown jewel, the hat trick that you want to do on these bikes, if you want to unlock every ounce of power you can, you're gonna wanna do a full exhaust system, a high flow air filter. You're gonna wanna do velocity stacks. So the factory velocity stacks on this bike, they're a little bit tall. You can get some aftermarket ones online that are gonna be a little bit shorter. They're about $350, and then get your tune afterwards once you have all those things. The full exhaust, high flow air filter, velocity stacks. That's gonna be how you can get the most power out of this bike. You're probably gonna be at around the 14 horsepower range. I'll say 12 to 15. Real world horsepower gain if you do all of those things to this bike. And somebody can chime in if those numbers aren't correct, but from all the dyno sheets that I've seen and tuners that I've talked to, that's about, it seems like, what people are getting. And all that power that you gain is really just in your high RPMs. It's really just 12 to about 14,000 RPMs. You can do all of those modifications and your low and mid-range power is virtually the exact same. So you're only gonna see that 12 horsepower gain, whatever it may be, in your top couple thousand RPMs. Well, and I'll just talk about exhaust really quick for 30 seconds because there's a ton of confusion on this. So the factory exhaust, yes, it's super quiet, yes, it weighs a ton. So even if you put a slip-on the bike and you don't get a tune, you're not gaining any power from that, but you are losing and cutting weight. So in theory, you are making your bike faster with a slip-on and no tune just from the weight savings. Now below your factory muffler, you're gonna come to this big box that is in here. So this is a resonator expansion chamber. So it's big, it's bulky, it hooks onto the factory header. There's one bolt that kind of suspends it in there, and then that is what hooks to your factory muffler. Now, contrary to popular belief, this is not your catalytic converter. This is your catalytic converter, which is inside of the factory headers. There is no way to unbolt that. It is just in there. So I already have ordered a few different exhaust options for us, and so probably this weekend those will all get here, and so we'll do an exhaust video, and I'm gonna answer absolutely every question anybody has. You're gonna learn a lot from that video. But there's a couple different ways that you can go about putting on a slip-on system on this. You can just do a small link pipe that kind of comes off of that factory expansion box, and then just have your slip-on exhaust here. Or you can get a slip-on that has a link pipe that will delete your expansion chamber down there, and it will just come straight off the headers, and then your slip-on exhaust will either come out right here, or it will come up here and mount to your peg, depending on what brand. There's a few different styles out there. So you can kind of go about the slip-on exhaust 2 different ways, to have it with the expansion resonator chamber or without. And we are gonna experiment with both and see how they each sound, see how they each feel. Now, another thing that I have seen guys do and heard about is that you can decat your factory header. So once you have your expansion chamber off, you have your muffler off, you're putting on your new slip-on, as everything's off, you can get in here with a long drill bit, a hammer and chisel, a big long screwdriver. I have seen so many different methods for this, and I'm not gonna endorse one and say that that's what you should do. And we may or may not do that, I haven't decided yet. But you can get in there and drill out, bust out that factory catalytic converter. Now, no matter what slip-on exhaust you put on your bike, you are not gonna be shooting flames and fireballs if your catalytic converter is still in the bike. Once you decat the factory header, and put a slip-on on, even if you don't have a tune yet, it is going to shoot flames and fireballs. So now we're gonna push the bike in the garage so it's kind of out of the sunlight and you guys can see those gauges a little bit better, and I'm gonna show you how to work all the features and settings on this bike. All right, so now we will just turn on our motorcycle. The gauges light up here, Kawasaki. So there's a few different things, that glare sucks, but there's a few different things you'll see on the gauges here. Obviously your tachometer goes across the screen. You have your speedometer down there. You can change that between miles per hour and kilometers per hour. Up in the left-hand corner, you have the gear indicator, and then you have your rider mode. So that spot that says sport, that's gonna be the rider mode that we're in, and I'll show you how to switch that. You have a full gas gauge, your odometer, which you can cycle between odometer, trip B. You have your engine temperature. The lower menu down here to where it says 33.1 miles per gallon. So there's a few different things, a few different menus, displays that can read. So your average speed, total ride time, battery voltage. This is going to be interesting because this is going to be your instant fuel economy. So this will show you, it updates about every 2 seconds, but that will show you how many miles per gallon you are currently getting. You have a clock over on the right-hand corner there, and then another neutral indicator on the right side as well. So you will for sure know when you are in neutral. Now we'll pull back a little ways, and over on our left-hand control here, so you're gonna have an up arrow, a down arrow, and then a middle button that says SEL. So pressing the up arrow is going to toggle you between the odometer, trip A, trip B, back to the odometer. Now, if we press the lower arrow on this button here, that is going to change your lower menu that is down here. So you can see that's our instant economy right there. We'll press down arrow, so that's our average fuel economy. That is our range. So it's kind of nice to have the digital range as well as your gas gauge. That just kind of gives you an exact estimate of how many miles you have left till empty. Just a quick press of the button can kind of toggle between all of those different displays. So the thing to know before we get into all these different modes is that there is 2 different power levels and 3 different traction control levels. So your different rider modes are just a different combination of the power level and the traction control. There is also a rider mode that is called rider, and that's a custom mode to where you can set the power at whatever you want and you can set the traction control at whatever you want. So that's kind of cool. But getting back to it here, so to change our rider mode, you can see we're on sport. We are just gonna hold down the down arrow on our left-hand control for 2 seconds, and then that will switch our rider mode. So now we are in road mode. So sport mode is gonna be the highest power setting and the lowest traction control setting. Road mode is gonna be the highest power setting still, but it has the medium traction control setting. Now if we press our down arrow again for 2 seconds, we will cycle to rain mode. So rain mode is going to be the lowest power setting and the highest traction control setting. And we'll experiment with those rider modes when we go out riding here. So I'll kind of try and talk you through how much power about we have in rain mode versus sport mode. Now if we hold that down arrow one more time for 2 seconds, we are gonna get to that rider mode that I explained. So you can see this little orange screen popped up that says KTRC, Kawasaki Traction Control, off. So I have already made a custom rider mode. So I put full power and then the traction control completely off. Now to change your power and traction control settings here, what you will do is press that middle SEL button. So if we press that one time, you will see our power mode start blinking there. And then you can use your up and down arrow on the control to adjust that if you wanted low power or if you wanted the full power. If you press the SEL button again, it will make our traction control blink. And so then we can decide if we want level 1, level 2, level 3, or we can scroll down and have that completely off. So I like having the rider mode to have full power and traction control off, because then that's my one rider mode that I don't have traction control. Because even on sport mode, we have full power, but we still have some traction control. And just in case anybody was wondering, your traction control is going to interfere with wheelies. So if you're trying to do some wheelies on this thing, you will definitely want your traction control off. Now, if we press that SEL button one last time, it makes the power and the traction control stop blinking, and then those modes are set. So we will just scroll back up here to sport mode, and you can go through these rider modes as the bike is running, as you are in gear, as you're going down the highway. So now let's talk about the quick shifter really quick. So the Kawasaki quick shifter, you cannot turn on and off unless you are in neutral. You can't be going down the road, you know, in 6th gear at 70 miles per hour and turn your quick shifter on. The bike has to be in neutral. It can be running or it can be not running, but it has to be in neutral to toggle your quick shifter on and off. Now, it is very easy to turn the quick shifter on and off. All we're going to do is hold our middle SEL button and the lower down arrow at the same time for 2 seconds. So we'll press both of those. We'll look at our display, and under sport mode, you see a little square that pops up. It says KQS. That is Kawasaki Quick Shifter. Now, to toggle that off, you will just press your SEL in combination with the down arrow for 2 seconds. Then our quick shifter is off. Easy as that, there is nothing to it. Now, outside of those features, you're gonna have a couple other settings you can adjust. So you have a button down here on your display, and you have a button over on the right side. So if you press both of those at the same time for 2 seconds, you're gonna come to your menu here. So pressing the right side is gonna select whatever you have there, and pressing the left side is gonna scroll down here. To go back from a screen, you will just hold both of these buttons down for 2 seconds. So we're adjusting our brightness there. Press the right button, brings us back to the menu. We could scroll down, you could set your date and clock. You can look at service intervals. Under Bluetooth, if we go into that, so this is going to be how you pair your phone to the bike, and you can get the Kawasaki Rideology app. You can track your rides, look at different things like service. There's a bunch you can do with that. I'm not really going to get into all of it today, but that is how you would pair your phone, and you would want the Rideology Kawasaki app. Oh, under vehicle settings there, you can adjust where your shift light comes on at, the exact RPMs there. You know, I have it set to 11,000 RPMs because it seems like you have most of your power on this bike at 12,000. So I always like that to flash about 1,000 before I'm at peak. Well, and then your units down here would just be adjusting between miles per hour and kilometers per hour. Well, and so that's gonna be all the features and ride modes and how to cycle through and get to each of those. It's super easy. So now we're gonna gear up, we're gonna jump on the bike, hit the streets, we're gonna experiment with some of those riding modes. We're gonna see what this machine has. We're gonna stretch its legs a little bit. We're gonna experiment with that quick shifter. I'm gonna see if I can shift just as fast as that Kawasaki quick shifter, or if it's really that good. So let's see if this thing is all that it's cracked up to be. All right, we are about ready to go, so we will fire up this bad girl. Instantly starts like it should. It is brand new. So we'll let this bike warm up for just a second. We'll talk about the colors that Kawasaki did for the 2024 ZX-6R. So you're gonna have really 4 different options on this bike. You have the one that we have, the flat black spark and ebony, which I think is the best one. You have the KRT edition, so it's the classic Kawasaki lime green everything. It has some black and red graphics as well. You know, I would have gotten the KRT if it was just all lime green. Not a huge fan of the black and the red that they threw in there, so that wasn't gonna be the one we got. I do like the pearl white robotic scheme, but they have some crimson red in it, and it has red wheels, and they're just awful. Like, if the bike didn't have the red wheels, the pearl white robotic would have been the one. So, and there is one last color option, and that's going to be the 40th anniversary Kawasaki ZX-6R scheme. So it looks kind of retro, as you can see. I mean, you get the blue and the white and the green, and it takes you back to those Kawasaki's of the 90s where everything was just so in your face and loud and proud. And I saw a picture of it online, and I thought, well, I gotta get there and see it in person to know if it's really gonna be for us or not. And after I saw it in person, it was just a no-go. It just doesn't quite work. I understand that you were trying, Kawasaki, but it just wasn't our cup of tea. So we'll saddle up here. I've got it in sport mode at the moment, so I think we'll just leave it in sport mode for now. Now, before we even take off, the one thing I will say about this bike is that the throttle response and throttle position is absolutely dialed in to the T. So if we just add just the slightest amount of throttle, you can watch our RPMs here, and they just barely, you can climb them up to 2 to 2,500 RPMs, to 3,000 RPMs, to 3,500 RPMs. Never have I had a sport bike where you could just so precisely adjust your revs. So it makes the throttle just so easy to operate as you are starting out. You don't just give it a little throttle and it goes to 5,000 RPMs like some rockets do. You know what I like about the power modes on this is that it makes it an option for first-time motorcycle owners. And I know I'm going to get some flack for saying that, but with you having that rain mode on there, or just that you can customize the maps to whatever you want, you could put your power on the lowest setting, you could put your traction control on the highest setting, and the throttle response is just so easy and forgiving as is that I don't think a first-time rider would have any problem starting on a ZX-6R, and I never thought I would say that. Everything about this motorcycle is just refined. It is so perfect and so precise. I mean, they've been working on the ZX-6R for over 20 years now, and that shows in this 2024. This is absolutely my favorite ZX-6R that has ever come out. And I did not think I would be saying that. It almost doesn't even feel like a motorcycle. It feels like a jet. I don't feel like I have wheels. I feel like I'm just floating. It is just so smooth. And those Nissan brakes that it comes with, oh man, we can stop on a dime if we need to. They feel so good and they are so tight. And we do have the Showa suspension, and so we can adjust our preload on one fork here. On the other fork, we can adjust all of our compression, rebound. So fully adjustable suspension. And I have not adjusted anything so far. You know, it feels pretty good. I'm a little bit of a lighter guy. I'm about 150 pounds, and so the suspension, one would say, is probably a little bit stiff for my weight, but I have always liked a rigid suspension. Kind of a stiffer setup. That's usually one of the first things I do to all my bikes, is crank on that suspension a little. But I have not at all on this bike. And you know, we only have 100 miles on it so far. So we're still getting used to it. We're still breaking it in. But absolutely everything about this bike, I am just loving, guys. Once we get out into the country here a little bit and don't have any cars in front of us or behind us here, we'll open her up a little bit and we'll experiment with those rider modes, with the quick shift. We'll just warm up our tires a little bit for now. So now I was saying that with the changes that happened for 2024, you know, the bike is cammed, totally different. They played with injection, the airbox. And all of that equates to that more low-end and mid-range torque that you are getting on this model now. And it seems like the power kind of starts to hit at about 4,000 RPMs, which is just crazy. 600 inline 4-cylinder that you can have power before 10 or 12,000 RPMs. It's awesome. It's so practical. You know, I'm in 6th gear here. We'll slow down to about 4,000 RPMs and I'll just punch it 44, 50, 55, 60, like it scoots right along. That power hitting low is so noticeable. Oh my goodness. And it is very cool. Now, and we are in Mexico right now, I will say, and so in light of that, we might get a little frisky on it here. So I'm rolling at, 58, we'll have it about 60 miles per hour. We'll pop down a few gears, 5th, 4th, yeah, we'll punch it in 4th here at about 65 or so miles per hour. And it is just screaming. Oh my goodness. And I had adjusted our shift light, you know, for 11,000 RPMs. And so you could see that our tack was flashing, you know, once it got to 11,000. Now we're still in the break-in period, right? So we're not going to be banging this thing off the rev limiter. You know, we're going to have fun, but we're not trying to grenade our engine here right off the bat. So we'll do another pull here quick in 6th gear, 50 miles per hour, and I'll just hammer on the throttle and we'll see how it kind of feels. Yep, initial torque, it pulls right through. Okay. So now I'm gonna toggle down to our rain mode. Well, and we'll just flip a U-turn right here. Man, those brakes are good. All right. So we were in sport mode here. We'll get to rain mode. So I'm pressing my down arrow on that left side. We're in road mode. Now we're in rain mode. We'll get to top gear here. Alright, top gear, 50 miles per hour. We'll roll on again and see what we think of that power. You know, it still has plenty of power, but it's almost like that initial punch on the throttle is softened up a little bit. It just doesn't quite pull us, maybe like sport mode did. And then, you know, on rain mode, our traction control is going to be at the highest setting. But it's almost like it just softens that throttle response just a touch. So that, you know, if you were kind of goosing the throttle a little bit, it wouldn't let your back end just slide out. It wouldn't just send a jolt of power to the rear end. So now what I'm gonna do is, as we kind of come to the flat at the bottom of this hill by that bridge, I'm gonna come to a stop. We're gonna launch it and I'm gonna bang through all 6 gears, or at least a good chunk of the gears, as fast as I can. And then we'll turn around and we'll do that same drill with the Kawasaki quick shifter, and we'll see if it really is that quick. All right, so we'll just come to a stop right here. All right, let me get in sport mode here. So we're in rain, now we're in road, now we're in sport. All right, first gear, quick shifter is off. We'll just launch and bang through all those gears manually. Pretty quick. I don't think the quick shifter has a chance of beating us. But let's just go around this roundabout, turn the quick shifter on, and we'll see if the quick shifter is faster than us. So like I said, we aren't allowed to toggle the quick shifter as we're in gear. We need to be in neutral. So we'll just pull over here. So I'm in neutral now, so I'm holding the middle SEL button and the lower arrow, the down arrow. KQS just came on. So now our quick shifter is activated. So what I can do with that, how that quick shifter works, is I can just be rapping on the throttle. You do not have to let off the throttle. You do not have to touch the clutch. All you do is, as you're watching your RPMs go up, you just click your toe up and shift gears whenever you want to. It is only for upshifting. The quick shifter does not work for downshifting, so you'll still have to use your clutch, you know, and everything for downshifts. But for upshifts, all you have to do is just click that gear shift up. It will automatically blip the throttle. It does everything else for you. We've got a few cars behind us here. We'll let those all slide by. All right. We'll get out on the flat here. See, now just as I was going from first to second gear, it beat me to the punch. I just barely put a little pressure on the gear shift and it had shifted us. The thing is crazy touchy. So I always have the Kawasaki quick shifter off unless I am wanting it on and wanting to just bang through gears MotoGP style, because it is so sensitive. But all right, here we go. We're just gonna launch and then no clutch, not letting off the gas. Oh man, it just instant. It's faster than us. It is faster than us. There's like no doubt about that. I mean, gosh, that is so crazy. That is the craziest feeling ever. You're just hammering in on that gas, not letting off, not touching the clutch, and it's just bang, 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 just doing it all for you. And it is like instant. Now what I will say, the difference between us manually shifting it up through all the gears versus the quick shift is with us having the clutch, you know, I can come into gears hard. So I can come like from first, come into second gear and really just drop that clutch fast and give it throttle again. And so we can really lurch into gears. You know, you feel the pull every time you're shifting gears. Whereas the quick shifter, it's just very smooth as you're upshifting. It's like you're driving an automatic car, you know, or something. Now we'll speed up a little, and then over this hill we'll work with that quick shifter again. Well, we'll just make a U-turn here. But it's funny, some people are really about the quick shifter. You know, I hear plenty of kids are like, oh, it needs to have the quick shifter, quick shifter, quick shifter. It doesn't make any difference to me whether a bike has a quick shifter or not. Like, since ours has one, like, that's cool. I mean, now I'm just operating it at low RPM. No clutch, not letting off the throttle. And it is smooth as glass. That is just so funny. I gotta do that once more. From first gear to sixth gear, just shifting at about 6,000 RPMs, not letting off the throttle, not letting off the throttle, not touching clutch, clicking your toe up. God, that's just hilarious. Alright, we'll do another quick shifter launch. We'll take it high RPM and bang through some gears. And then I'm gonna do it again manually. See if I can't beat this quick shifter. All right, quick shifter is on. We'll launch, bang through all 6 gears. Oh, that was a good launch. Gosh, that's just incredible. And just the sound too. It's just, quick shifter's kind of cool. All right. So we'll come to a stop here. Put her in neutral, middle button, lower button, hold them for 2 seconds. Quick shifter is off. And actually, you know what? I'm gonna put us in just our custom rider mode that is full power and 0 traction control. We'll jump on this road. I think there's a couple little twisty areas we can hit up here a ways. Oh, we got some curves here, so we'll just punch it. We can fly into this one real fast. Thought Kawasaki had the ZX-6 in a pretty good spot. Now it is 100% in a better spot now. Just because of those changes, adding all the low end and mid range to this bike is so practical now. After we get over this hill, I'll downshift again into like 4th gear and we'll give her the beans. Alright, pop down a few gears, 5th gear, 4th gear. We'll go to 3rd gear, really give it to her. As soon as we hit this change in pavement, there it is. Oh man, front end was hovering. I could feel it get twitchy there. I was kind of twitching back and forth in the 3rd gear, Paul. Just a little bit. I mean, it wasn't gonna like flip backwards on us, but that was kind of fun. Whoa, oh man, I almost drug my knee there. This thing just dips into the corners. It's ridiculous. This thing handles just like a samurai sword. It is precise. It is perfect. It is perfectly weighted, perfectly engineered. I mean, oh my goodness. Like, I don't even feel like I am driving the motorcycle. I feel like it is driving me. Alright, so here we are in rider mode, full power, 0 traction control. Oh, we'll come into this in a second. Knee down almost. Just screams out of it. It just wants you to wring its neck. Gosh. There's something about 600s that just, you wind them up and watch them go. That's what it is. Wind them up and watch them go. So like if you're thinking about getting a 2024 ZX-6R, let's compare this to the competition really quick. Compared to the CBR 600RR, this bike here, the ZX-6, is cheaper, has more electronic features, makes more low and mid-range power, makes more total power and torque overall. So it seems like it kind of edges in front of the Honda. As far as the Yamaha R7, like, it just doesn't even really compare. That's not even a fair comparison. I mean, this bike has about 40 more horsepower than a Yamaha R7 does. The R7's a parallel twin, you know, so it has a little more torque down low. But as soon as we wind up our ZX-6, those 4 cylinders, they're just gonna run away from an R7. You know, you have the Aprilia 660, but that's another parallel twin, so kind of along the lines of the R7, same thing, different brand. You do have the Gixxer 600, but you know, the Gixxer just kind of looks the same as it did 20 years ago. You know, it has that one headlight. It's just, the GSX-R looks strange to me. I just can't get behind it. You know, we have a Suzuki, our DRZ 400. I love that bike to death. I don't love Gixxers. You know, it's a little bit more expensive than the ZX-6R. I think it has less features. It's just more underwhelming, and it costs more. I think the Kawasaki outperforms the Gixxer between the power, the rev range, where the power hits, the suspension, the brakes. The ZX-6R is just the winner out of those two bikes. What other middleweights do we have that would be a good comparison to this? You know, we don't have the Yamaha R6 anymore. I don't know why in the world Yamaha got out of the 600cc inline 4 market. I mean, the R6 was the most desirable 600cc inline 4, it seemed like, for most people. I always desired the CBR or the ZX-6 because those R6s were kind of gutless, you know, until you wound up your RPMs. They just had nothing for low-end and mid-range power. But the suspension and the brakes were always very good on the Yamahas. And they're reliable too. I mean, all these brands are so reliable. You know, the big four, Honda, Kawasaki, Suzuki, Yamaha. They're just the best. I don't know why I'm just ringing the sticks back again. 6th gear, really getting her. But I'm not trying to take it to redline, which is 15,000. I'm keeping it at 12. Trying to be somewhat good on this thing. As much as we can be. But we're still trying to have fun. God, everything is just buttery. You know, at 75, 80 miles per hour, there is just nothing for buzziness and vibration. This thing, we're at 85, and it is just smooth as glass. Get on one of these bikes and take it up to about 75 to 85 miles per hour. It's gonna make you wanna go across the country on it. It is that smooth. Rip into it in the twisties a little. They're not that twisty. They're kind of just long sweepers. But it's always fun not to just go in a straight line, so up here at the next intersection, we've got a stop sign, and we'll put on our quick shifter again one last time and try that out. That quick shifter is the funniest thing ever. Just banging through gears, no clutch, never letting off the gas. It's cool. And you feel it just barely blip the throttle, you know, between those shifts, but yeah, I mean, it feels like a F1 car or something. It is hilarious and very cool. I mean, we're primarily always going to cruise with the quick shifter off. Now, if I'm ever in a drag race with another 600cc bike and I can't afford to lose or look like a fool, I will click the quick shifter on quick. Middle button, lower button, 2 seconds. Quick shifter just came on. Sweet. I'll let all these civilians, these peasants, pass through. And then we will take our Kawasaki ZX-6R to the limit. Alright, that's probably enough of a gap. Alright, first gear, let's tuck down a little and get ready. Oh my gosh, that is just a great feeling.
it'll be really fun when our exhaust comes in this weekend, that we can get some volume out of this thing. I mean, I hope you guys can hear it. There is not much to hear. But you can hear the engine once you get above about 6,000, 8,000 RPMs. If you're not going super fast, because otherwise the wind noise is going to be louder. Oh man, this thing just loves the twisties. I have done 0 wheelies on this motorcycle. None. Zilch. Nada. So I just wanted to really kind of get used to it, get the feel of it. You know, like I said, since we are coming from leader bikes to this 600, everything just feels different. You know, the clutch, where the power hits. But it's fun, you know. I wanted to go back to a 600. I've had way more leader bikes than 600s. And, you know, I wanted to go back to a 600 just because I thought it'd be more fun. You just don't have to think about it, you know? You can just grab a handful of throttle and you're not worried that the back end is going to break loose or that you're going to flip backwards, or, you know, you can get up to 3rd gear and you're not going 150. But this thing can get to 150. All right, so we are really scrubbing that corner. Oh, that was cool. Felt good. Felt good, I tell you what. All right, and really dipping her down, holding our bike as straight as we can as we kind of lean off of it. And we'll wait till this white car and then we'll catch up with that pickup. Yep. See if we can't beat him here. Yep, no problem. Yeah, this thing gets up to speed quick. I think the 0 to 60 time is 3.1 seconds or 3.2. I'd like to think that I can get 2.9 on it. But it's quick. It's quick. So if a factory Hellcat, you know, their Red Eye or whatever, their tip-top version goes 0 to 60 in 3.4 seconds, a factory ZX-6 will beat a Hellcat off the line. That's pretty cool. And we're off. Oh, I didn't know if that car was gonna pull into our lane or not. You know, and you can drive this bike tame if you want to. You don't have to just be going balls to the wall the whole time. If you want it to be nice, it'll treat you nice. It will drive smooth. It will drive easy. You know, our ZX-10s, they're just so much power and so much torque. You're going 35 on a ZX-10 and the smallest move on your throttle is just breaking your neck. They have so much power. But this thing, she'll behave if you want her to. And then you have those power modes too. Put it in rain mode or something if you're just casually cruising. You know, soften up that throttle response so it is just a very smooth, easy ride. So I own this motorcycle. I am not borrowing it or anything from the dealership. We bought it outright. And this is my 63rd motorcycle. 63. And while I'm not gonna say it's my favorite bike of all time, because that is reserved for the Suzuki DRZ 400, all hail the king of dual sports. But what I will say is that this bike, this 2024 ZX-6R, is my favorite sport bike I have ever owned or ever ridden. I have ridden sport bikes that are more comfortable, that have more power, that have crazier electronic features than ours has here. But just as a total package, gosh, Kawasaki has absolutely just nailed it out of the park with this ZX-6R. Usually I always have a critique on a motorcycle, like I'd change this or I'd change that, or this could be a little bit better, or I don't like this. I can't think of anything at all that I would change or make different on this 2024 ZX-6. Even the looks, I wouldn't change anything about the looks. And I usually always have a gripe about the looks of a bike. But the throttle response, the feel, the ergonomics, everything about it is just, it is perfected. Kawasaki has worked on a model for over 20 years, and they have perfected it. It is the best riding, it is the best looking, it is the best ZX-6R that the world has ever seen. And we are very blessed to have one.
Well, and that was just beyond fun, to say the least. You can't help but just smiling ear to ear after you ride this thing. It is just so fun. Everything about it is just perfected. The handling, the power delivery is so smooth, so linear. It's forgiving, but it's fast and raw and brutal at the same time. The brakes, the ergonomics, everything is just perfect. So it's a 10 out of a 10, 5 stars for sure. There is nothing I would change about this bike. It is just absolutely awesome. So this is a very cool machine. The price is right. Everything you want is there. Kawasaki is absolutely the king of the middleweight super sport market now with this bike here. And they have won me over, that's for sure. Well, and I suppose that's gonna wrap it up today. So like the video if this helped you out. Subscribe if you guys want to see more. And until next time, have a wonderful night, guys.